Hi, this is Josh Levent, and welcome to Humans, the podcast for people who want the world to become more human. This is episode 0. This is not a full episode, but just an introduction to the podcast. And I'm going to tell you about the inspiration for the podcast and what it's about generally, and then I'm going to tell you about season 1. So, this podcast is about who we are as human beings. It's about the stories and experiences of individual humans on planet Earth, and it's really from all over the world. I'm based in Switzerland, but the recordings have been made in several different countries where I've been traveling in the last few months, and they are from people in 7 different countries, the first 8 episodes, which make up season 1. So this podcast is for people who want the world to slow down for a moment, who want to get connected to somebody they might not meet in everyday life. And in this sense, the podcast is very different from other podcasts you might be listening to. For one, there is no how-to, there's no instructions, and there's no advice. This is a podcast of stories and experiences. And that's really important for me, because we are in this world where constantly we're told how to do things. We're told that we have to upskill ourselves and have to keep learning, and everything has to be so incredibly amazing all the time. We don't feel good enough anymore, and our self-worth suffers. And I think through the experience of storytelling and hearing about the true lives of other people who we may never meet, but who have lives as ordinary and as extraordinary as our own, we can feel a little bit more at ease in our own situation, in our own experiences. I hope that by listening to some of the stories we have coming up, you'll think to yourself, wow, that's incredible. I didn't know there was anyone with the same experience as me. And maybe also thoughts like, well, if he can do it, or if she can do it, then I can do it as well. So that's one of the important aspects or ways that we're different. And the other one is that the podcast is much longer than the average podcast. The average podcast, I think, is around 20 minutes long. And the episodes of Humans will be more like 1 hour long. Some of them shorter, some of them longer. But that's what I'm aiming for. And of course, one reason is to really go deep. But the other reason is to slow down, because I could ultra edit these conversations to be really short and focus only on the really deepest parts. But when I thought about doing that, it struck me as wrong immediately, for the reason that I have difficulty paying attention to things, and I'm feeling stressed a lot of the time. And I have found that these things are connected, because I'm constantly experiencing things at such a rapid pace. Tweets and YouTube videos that are 3 minutes long and have a billion things in them make me unable to pay attention to things which come more slowly, and give me this feeling that everything has to happen immediately. And that makes me nervous, that gives me anxiety, and that stresses me out. And I've realized that when I take the time to read a long book, to listen to a long podcast, or to watch a longer documentary, my body is able to calm down. And that's the experience I want to create with this podcast as well. So I hope that you'll not be put off by the length, but actually find a moment, maybe with a blanket on a couch, to indulge yourself in taking a little bit of time to experience this podcast, and not just rush through it by putting it on triple speed or something like that, which is something I find myself doing with podcasts as well. It doesn't let me really relax and calm down. So that's how it's different, and that's how, kind of the vision behind it. It's really about creating this experience of slowing down and paying attention to who we are as human beings, and how we're connected to each other. Because I think we humans are such a, and I find myself saying this almost as if I'm not a human, and there's a running joke that I'm an alien, so now you know. But that humans are such a collaborative species, which is such a collective species. We don't do things on our own. This individualization that has happened in the last several hundred years in our cultures is, it has some good things, but it also is separating us from each other. And I think that's really dangerous, because something really deep about us is about a collective, and it's about our connection to each other. So the podcast is about that. Now, season 1 will be 8 conversations with young people. They're 25 to 35 years old. Some of them have really incredible experiences. When you hear about them, you think, wow, what an experience to have had at such a young age. And others of them will sound much more ordinary, and you'll find yourself thinking, wow, that might be like my life. And that's really the point. So the way that I chose these guests is not through their accomplishments or through their ability to attract a crowd or an audience, but by deciding intuitively within seconds or minutes of meeting them that I was curious to find out more about their life. So I just asked myself that question: would I be willing to sit down with this person for an hour and have them tell me their life story? And if the answer was yes, I invited them to be on the podcast without knowing what their life story was about at all. And that means that the curiosity that I exhibit in the podcast and the episodes is real. I'm really following my own curiosity, and the conversation we have is totally authentic, and everything I experience for the first time along with you. So that's season 1. I'm excited to share it with you. We've, as I said, recorded all the episodes over the last few months. We're in the editing process now, and we're going to be releasing really soon. And I'm really excited to share it with you. And of course, feel free to skip episodes if after a few minutes, 10 minutes of listening, you find that you don't connect with that episode. I think you'll find that they're different enough that even if you don't connect with one of them, you might connect with a different episode. So thanks for giving this podcast a chance. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, but I think this one is special, and I've really given it everything I've got to make it different and make it special and make it worth your time. So thank you once more, and I'll see you in episode 1.